All right, I've had a lot of comments and a lot of emails coming in. Bakes, you have not talked yet about what of the conservatives now? What happens now that there's this majority? So let's talk about it today. And there comes a point in politics where rage stops being strategy, number one. And I think for conservatives in Canada, that point is probably right now. Let's be honest about where we are. That's what we have to do as conservatives. The floor crossings, they happened. It's over. The numbers in Parliament are what they are. It's not changing. Mark Carney now has his majority. The media is doing what the media always does, which is treating this moment like some sort of psychological collapse for conservatives, while framing liberal momentum as destiny for the country. And for a lot of people on the right, especially people who care deeply about this country, it kind of feels like the walls have now not just closed in, but caved in. It feels insulting. It feels rigged. It feels like voters keep speaking and the system keeps finding ways to slap each and every one of us in the face. But here's the truth conservatives need to hear, and maybe not everyone wants to hear it, but it is the truth. The next phase cannot be driven by grief over all of this, panic over all of this, or obsession with the people who have left. It has to be driven by discipline. Let's tap into the truth.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Tap the Maple here on Bakes on Things for your Thursday afternoon. The next election is not going to be won by endlessly replaying the betrayal. It is not going to be won by making every day about the latest defector, the latest media email, the latest poll, the latest manufactured narrative about whether Pierre Poilievre has some fatal flaw. It is going to be won, if it's going to be won, by a party and a movement that declare to, or that decide to become broader, relentless, and more relentless than they've ever been before, and better prepared than the Liberals are prepared for it. And that's what this episode is about today. Not what the Liberals are doing, not what the media is saying, not what the latest traitor thinks of themselves after crossing the floor. Good riddance, just be gone. I'm not saying it's okay, but I wouldn't want you back, would you? What conservatives do next is important here, because if this movement is serious about saving this country, then the answer cannot just be outrage. It has to be a plan. Think about, if you watched this morning's episode, what I said about Mark Carney's ties to the U.S. We have to be ready. And I think that this plan starts with one very important realization. This is now a long war on poverty in this country, and long wars punish emotional overreaction. That does not mean you stop caring about it. It means you stop bleeding energy in all the wrong places. One of the biggest mistakes opposition movements make after a political setback like this is turning inward at exactly the moment they should be turning outward to the Canadian people. They start talking only to themselves, they start litigating personalities, they start obsessing over purity, and they work within their own groups, getting themselves riled up. They start asking who is more loyal, who is more authentic, who is tougher, who said the wrong thing at the wrong time, who failed to fight hard enough, who should be punished for all of this, who should be replaced. And while they are doing all of that, the governing party keeps governing, keeps messaging, keeps building narratives, and keeps buying time. That is the trap. It is a trap that the Liberals are praying that us conservatives fall into, and conservatives cannot afford to fall into it, because the country is in fact too broken, but don't say it that way anymore. Housing is still broken, but don't say it that way anymore. Affordability, the same. National cohesion is still breaking. Trusted institutions is still weak. Young people still feel like the ladder has been kicked away from them. Productivity is still a problem. Energy policy still makes no sense. Public safety concerns have not magically disappeared. The feeling that the country is no longer working for the people who built it is still very real. So the first next step for conservatives, in my opinion, is this. We have to stop acting like this is the end of the story. This is not the end of the story at all. It's certainly a setback. It sucks, a frustrating one, an infuriating one, in fact, a deeply undemocratic feeling one to many voters, but it is not the end of the story. It cannot be. And if Conservatives believe their own message about Canada being worth fighting for, then they cannot behave like a few floor crossings and one majority government somehow erase the conditions that created Conservative momentum in the first place in the last election. Those conditions are still here. This country still suffers under them. Actually, in many ways, they've gotten worse over the first year of Mark Carney. That matters because it means it's very hard to fix, and we need to stay on this because political momentum built on image can vanish very quickly. Political momentum built on unresolved national decline is a lot harder to kill. And that means the Conservative Party's first responsibility is not to emotionally mirror the base's anger. It is to convert that anger into durable political energy. That means structure. It means focus. It means patience and repetition. It means understanding that the people who are most demoralized right now are also the people most likely to either disengage with politics or lash out or both of those outcomes, and those help the Liberals, not the Conservatives. So step one is emotional discipline among the base. No circular firing squad, no endless mourning, no feeding the spectacle that is Mark Carney, no making the movement look smaller, weaker, and like it had just been beaten down by the Liberal majority and more unstable than it actually is. Because one thing that a lot of us, I think, are missing here is that publicly, at least, Conservative MPs are emphasizing unity and a long game. And I like that. That instinct is correct. It is not weakness to stay steady after a punch. It is maturity. Now, step two, though, becomes much harder. Conservatives now have to take that positive message and broaden it without blurring the lines. This is the central challenge for Pierre Poilievre and for the party as a whole, because there is always pressure after a setback like this to moderate and to usually what the media means by moderate is become less distinct, less dangerous to the establishment, less willing to name the problem out loud, less willing to challenge failed consensus thinking for further poor polling results. That would be a disaster to give that up. Conservatives do not need to become bland. They do not need to become liberals light. They do not need to become managerial, timid, or technocratic in order to become electable. But they do need to become more accessible. There is a difference in that, and a difference from what we've seen before. All MPs must be accessible by all media. A successful Conservative movement in Canada has to hold on to its core convictions while getting better at making those convictions feel relevant, practical, and safe to voters who are not already in the tent. That means the next step is not ideological surrender. It is better translation of the message. Take affordability, for example. Conservatives cannot just say the country is broken and nobody can afford anything. They have to show every week how their ideas would actually make life more affordable in visible, concrete, household-level terms. Take housing. It cannot only be about condemning the failures of housing, it has to become a sustained, easy-to-understand campaign about why homes cost what they cost, about who made them cost that much, and what specific conservative reforms would do to bring supply back and bureaucracy down. Take crime and disorder. We've heard some great things around this, but not enough. It cannot just be moral outrage. It has to become a repeated demonstration that public safety is not cruel, not radical, not extremist, but one of the most basic obligations of a functioning country to its citizens. National unity. It cannot just be slogans about Canada. It has to become a positive, persuasive case that this country can still work together again, and that restoring fairness between regions, workers, families, and taxpayers is not merely a partisan objective. It is a national one. That is what I mean by broadening without blurring the lines. Keep the edge to your conservative message, but keep the critique and keep the courage. But also become impossible to caricature. That is the next step. And yes, I do think that Pierre Poilievre is central to this, because I know there are people already whispering the usual things about him. Maybe it is time for a new leader. We don't just know it, we've seen it. Maybe the party needs a reset. Maybe the style is wrong. Maybe the tone is wrong. Maybe the media strategy is wrong. Maybe this, maybe that. But let's be adults for a second. Let's actually be Canadian adults for just one moment here, please. A movement does not prove its seriousness by panicking every time the political weather changes. Leadership matters, yes. Tone matters, yes. Growth matters, yes. But one of the reasons conservative parties sometimes struggle in this country is because too many people on the right think the answer to every difficulty is to reinvent the whole damn machine. We got the most votes we've ever gotten. The machine is working just fine. Sometimes the answer is to just simply refine things a bit, sharpen it to get those extra votes we didn't get last time, humanize it, expand it. Do not contract or cancel it. Don't demolish it. It got you over however many votes compared to Mark Carney. 8 million plus. Pierre Poilievre still has strengths that matter enormously in a long campaign environment. He's disciplined. He is experienced, despite what the Liberals try to say. He understands cost of living politics better than almost anyone in the country. He can prosecute a case. He can frame issues in memorable language. He does not sound like a bureaucrat. He sounds like someone who actually believes in something and maybe even lived a life like you and I did and do. Those strengths don't disappear because the media got excited for a different man in a suit. What matters now is that Poilievre and his team used this period to show range. You have 3 years now to show that range. And I do think that is one of the true next steps here. Show more range, like the best shortstops in baseball. Not less conviction, more range. Get to the ball wider. Widen that range. More family conversations, more long-form settings, more unscripted empathy, more issue-specific depth, more appearances in environments where people can see the real person and not the cartoon version the political class has spent years trying to draw. It worked very well with Diary of a CEO and also Joe Rogan, because these are important things conservatives have to understand. And what we have to understand is that many Canadians do not actually reject conservative ideas. They reject the image they have been given and associated with and the people that deliver them. But we can change that image. That image can be changed, not by surrendering and changing and collapsing the whole thing, but by showing fuller dimensions into the whole thing. And that leads directly into another next step that we have to think about here. Conservatives need to stop fighting only in Parliament and start fighting continuously in culture, outside, but all of them, not just Pierre Poilievre. Now, by culture, I do not mean turning politics into entertainment for its own sake. I mean recognizing that people do not build political trust from question period clips alone. They build it from the repeated exposure. They build it from familiarity, from seeing who seems normal, who seems grounded, who seems like they understand the country outside Ottawa's bubble. That means more local media, not less. That means more digital platforms, not fewer. That means more regional storytelling, more interaction with workers, parents, small businesses, owners, tradespeople, farmers, newcomers who followed the rules, young people locked out of housing, seniors crushed by costs, communities ignored by the elite Canadian Liberal. The party cannot just be a parliamentary opposition. It has to become a permanent national presence, a loud one. Because actually, some of the voice has been lost because of the majority government in Parliament, but not out here. A movement people feel around them at all times is one they feel, truly. A movement that brings the country back to itself. And it has to do that with discipline, because the left and the media establishment are very good at one thing: isolating conservative messages into little tiny boxes that can be dismissed very easily. So conservatives have to become harder to box in. They have to be talking about prices one day, housing the next day, regional unfairness the next, national pride the next day, border integrity the next, immigration system competence the next, energy independence the next, youth opportunity the next. You get the picture. They've got to keep it rolling, and constantly. Not in a scattered way, in a comprehensive, laser-focused way. In a way that says, we are not a grievance machine, we are a governing alternative. That messaging has to start coming out from the Conservatives from day one of this now majority government. And I think that phrase matters the most. A governing alternative. Because that is another next step. Conservatives must behave as though they are preparing to take this country over. They are preparing to govern even when government feels far away. That means policy seriousness. What do you stand for? Stand for it even for the next 3 years. Not 10,000-page PDFs nobody reads. I mean clear, repeatable, high-confidence proposals that can survive scrutiny and still connect emotionally with the Canadian people. The public needs to feel not only that Conservatives are angry for the right reasons, but that they are ready to fix the problem. Ready to appoint people, ready to prioritize, ready to execute, ready to withstand pressure, ready to defend decisions, ready to carry the burden of the office to fix this country. One reason some voters drift toward establishment figures is moments of uncertainty is not because, or in moments of uncertainty rather, is not because they love them. It is because they assume they are safer, even when those same figures helped create the mess in the first place. That psychological advantage has to be broken now. That has to be one of the strategies, and the way to break it is not just by saying the Liberals failed over the last 11 years. We know they did. Canadians already know a lot is failing under Liberal rule. The way to break it is by making the Conservative option feel more stable than the option we're in, more measured, more competent, and more strong, and strong enough to trust even than what it is today. And yes, you will have to develop new political habits, because here is a hard truth for our side. Not every impulse in the base is strategically useful. Sometimes the base wants maximum rage. Sometimes it wants maximum purity. Sometimes it wants maximum rhetorical fire, maximum punishment for anyone who falls short of perfect. But a party that only feeds that instinct can trap itself inside a room that gets louder and smaller at the same time. You can be passionate without being reckless. It's possible, you know. You can be firm without becoming self-destructive. You can call out betrayal without making betrayal the entire identity of the movement. We don't need it to be that way. It doesn't need to work that way if the policy works and we know and can feel that it's going to work. That is the next step for supporters as much as it is for the party. Reward the seriousness, reward the discipline, reward the fact that policy is coming out, reward growth, reward the long game. Because if every single internal disagreement becomes a public execution of its leader or MPs or whatever, then all you are doing is volunteering to help the people that you oppose the most. And why would we want to do that? Let's talk about candidate quality too, because this actually matters over the next 3 years. Conservatives have to use this window to recruit exceptional people into the ridings. Not just loyal people, not just loud people, exceptional people. And there should not be GTA people going into southwestern Ontario ridings. It needs to be local, known people. People with roots in their communities, people who can communicate, people who do not sound manufactured, people who understand economics, energy, law, policing, farming, trades, family life, local business, and regional realities. People who can withstand pressure because they know who they are before they ever step into politics. If Conservatives want to present a credible government in waiting by the next election, then the caucus has to keep getting deeper and more impressive, not just larger in general and not parachuting people in from other areas. And I get it. You're going to put in the comments that's what happened with Pierre, but Pierre was from Alberta. And so all of this matters. Renewal is persuasive. When voters see fresh, capable, grounded people choosing to run under a banner, it sends a signal that the banner still means something to people, that the movement still has gravity, and that the future has not closed for us. So yes, leadership does matter. Pierre Poilievre does matter, but so does the bench strength. Everybody, every sports team has bench strength. Every company has bench strength. So does local organizations. So does fundraising. So does candidate recruitment. Anywhere you go, there's bench strength. All of it, from data to even AI, has bench strength people behind it. So does door knocking. So does message testing. You getting the picture? So does building real presence in ridings that are not natural conservative territory. Why do we have to assume we're going to lose certain ridings? Why don't we just go get really good people in those ridings that people in the ridings know? Because another next step for conservatives is this: stop thinking only in terms of winning back the already convinced. We need a party that wants to govern and has to get very serious about the people who are not watching political. They're not watching political news, not political YouTube, not on partisan Twitter, not attending rallies, not obsessed with floor crossings, not emotionally invested in every parliamentary fight. The people who are busy, skeptical, somewhat detached, and mostly vote based on whether life feels manageable. Those voters are not unreachable voters, but they do require an effort. They do require a different approach. And that is where the less internal drama becomes so much more important. Less internal drama, more clarity. Less movement therapy, and more competence. Less obsession with Ottawa chess moves and more focus on what their groceries cost, whether their child will ever own a home, whether their downtown feels safe, whether their job feels secure, whether their country still feels like their own. That is where the next election will be decided. Not based on Trudeau's years, not based even mostly on Mark Carney's years, but where we sit that day. Not among the most online, not among the most exhausted. And conservatives should actually be well positioned for that audience if they stay focused. Because exhaustion, my friends, is political tinder. And it starts a big fire. People can tolerate disappointment for only so long before they become open to show. The conservatives must prepare. That is the biggest next step of all. Prepare for the day that the shine fades. Let them have it today, but prepare for the day it fades, because it will. Prepare for the day that the contradictions finally pile up, even on the Liberal side. Prepare for the day Canadians start asking harder questions again because things just still don't feel right. Prepare for the day the media cannot protect the narrative anymore, and prepare for the day that voters are willing to look somewhere else. Because when that day comes, conservatives cannot arrive looking bitter, frantic, fragmented, or unserious, and they cannot still have a 2025 election hangover. They have to arrive looking seasoned, battle-tested, and ready, looking grounded in their beliefs and their policies, ready to implement them the day they get to govern. So, if I had to boil all of this down for each and every one of you, I know today's episodes have been long ones, but they've been important ones. I would say the conservative next steps are these. Even if I am not giving them to you as a neat consultant-style checklist, here's what I think. Stay united, all of us. Stay disciplined, all of us. Keep Pierre Poilievre, but expand the way that he is seen. They've already started doing that, but you can't stop that. That can't just be a 2-week round trip around North America. Broaden the coalition without diluting the convictions. Speak to ordinary exhausted Canadians, not only the already converted to conservatives, but others who just don't know what to do with themselves anymore. Behave like a government in waiting, and recruit depth locally. Strengthen the bench locally. Fight in culture, not just in Parliament, and turn anger into endurance. Turn betrayal into fuel. Turn this period between now and the next election from a funeral into a forge, because maybe that is the real test of whether a political movement deserves to win it all. That's how you tap into the truth. Don't forget to like, subscribe, join the conversation down below. It's been a big day today. Lots to talk about. Please jump in there and do so. We will see you tomorrow on Friday. Thank God it's Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern Time for Tap the Maple, your Friday edition. We'll see you then. Have yourselves a great Thursday night.